I walked into the house only to hear my wife telling her sister, "I just can't get enough of him, we've been together 3 times today." In that moment, everything became clear, and I left without looking back. I had believed that the day couldn't possibly worsen, but I was mistaken. The entire week at work had been dreadful, and to top it off, my boss, the company president, called me into his office to reprimand me for a mistake made by someone else. Upon arriving home, I discovered my sister-in-law's car blocking my driveway, preventing me from parking in front of my house. The neighbor's teenage son and his friends had filled the street with parked cars, forcing me to park 3 doors down. Entering the house, I questioned why I bothered. My relationship with my wife's sister, Susan, had always been strange since the day we met. I couldn't fathom why, but she seemed to harbor an immediate dislike for me. Furthermore, I had little hope for an intimate evening with my wife, Janice, as we hadn't been intimate in almost a month despite my persistent efforts. Arriving at my driveway, I noticed an empty garbage bin by the curb and dragged it around the side of the house through the side gate, placing it next to the back door. Entering the kitchen, I heard music and the chatter of my wife and her sister in the living room. Grabbing a beer from the refrigerator, I took a sip before heading toward the living room. However, a sentence I overheard at the door froze me in my tracks. "God, he ducked me 3 times today." It came not from my sister-in-law but from my beloved wife. "Ever since Brandon came back last month, I just can't get enough of him," my wife confessed. I knew Brandon as my wife's ex-boyfriend who had left her and moved away. Curious, my wife's sister asked, "So what are you going to do now?" Janice replied, "Brandon wants me to move in with him, so I'll get a lawyer and file for divorce. This is a community property state, so I'll get half of everything." I had heard more than enough already. Numbly, I made my way to the back door and retraced my steps to my car. Opening the door, I sank into the driver's seat, now realizing the reason I had been denied any intimacy: my wife was sharing it with someone else, and now she wanted half of everything. The worst part was that the state was likely to grant it to her. Janice and I had tied the knot just 3 years ago. She had quit her job right after our vows, and when she was at home, she never lifted a finger. I hired a maid 3 times a week for house cleaning and laundry, and on those days, she would cook dinner. The rest of the time, either I cooked, or she ordered takeout. I know what you might be thinking, but love wore blinders on me. She kept me happy by providing good sex, at least until a month ago. My mother passed away when I was 13, a devastating loss for both my father and me. Dad did his best to raise me right, and we became very close. Losing him to a drunk driver when I was 23 was a significant blow, occurring just a year before I met Janice. Inheriting nearly $25 million from Dad, I wisely kept the money invested with the guidance of a good broker. Despite Janice's attempts to spend every dime I earned, I had hundreds of thousands in savings I had never touched, making the inheritance grow even in the current economy. I had enough to live comfortably, and I didn't have to spend it. My love for Janice led us to skip a prenuptial agreement, a dumb mistake many make thinking their marriage will last forever. This oversight meant she could potentially take almost $1.5 million from me, all for the privilege of spreading her legs. The state seemed all too willing to support this legalized form of exploitation. She had mentioned getting a lawyer, indicating she wasn't yet prepared to serve me. I knew I had some time to act. Formulating a plan, I sat in my car, keeping an eye on the rearview mirror until I saw my sister-in-law's car pull out and drive away. I started the car, made a U-turn, and walked back to my driveway. Upon entering the house, Janice was nowhere to be seen, so I headed to the kitchen for another beer, popping the top and taking a long sip as I contemplated my next steps. "Oh, there you are, honey," Janice greeted, entering the kitchen. "I didn't hear you come in." "Hello, dear. I just got in." "It's been a long day," I replied with a loving smile, determined to play the role as convincingly as she did. "I didn't have time to order anything for dinner," she said with a slight pout. Although I wanted to say, "That's because you spent your day with your boyfriend, sharing all the details with your sister," what I uttered was, "That's okay, sweetie. I'll just heat up some leftovers from last night." She gave me a sweet smile, kissed my cheek, and announced she was going to go up and soak in a hot bath. Smiling and nodding, I thought, yeah, gotta wash all that away. When she left, I grabbed a plate of fried rice and ate it cold while downing 2 more beers. After tossing the empty container, I retreated to the den and settled into the chair, channel surfing. I settled on an old movie when Janice returned about half an hour later. She sat on the couch until the movie ended. Standing up, she claimed she was tired and heading to bed. Yeah, tired from being unfaithful. I told her I would watch the news and join her later. I hadn't really paid attention to the movie, my mind was occupied with plotting my next move. Knowing I couldn't do much until Monday, I endured the next few days, working in the yard on Saturday and playing golf with buddies on Sunday. On Monday, I called my broker handling my inheritance portfolio and had everything liquidated. Being in upper management allowed me to cash in my 401k swiftly, penalty be damned. By Thursday, I was ready to make my move. Returning home to my supposedly loving wife, I informed her. You can click on share more to see if there is a part 2.